Count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings and see what God has done. Alright, it's Wayback Wednesday, which means we're halfway through this week. But before, and Joe's just talking about the history of gaming, so we've got Robot Babies. You ready? There you go. Here's a shout out just for you. You support me, so I support you. The shout out is for our friend. Let's see who it is today. Maybe. Alright, we got Buddha, Motivation, Cruising Nuts, Watchers, New Buzz, Heather, Tour, Spirit, My Crafty, Pete, Cemeteries, Hippie, Praying, Old Fart, One Busy, VS, Tour, Spirit, Watchers, Steve Camping, Hillbilly, She Stole, Freckled, Southern, National, Pepperose, Generations. Oh, it looks like Generations won. Okay, hang on. Okay, so this channel, we got Generations Found. This channel acknowledges people who have been mostly forgotten and whose stories need to be told. In addition, we feature some graves, tombs of famous and infamous people and associated events. We specialize in family history and geology, history, cemeteries. I don't like our channel. Geology is something I'm kind of interested in, and so, yeah, maybe someday. We'll see. It takes a lot of research, and I don't like research. Like, share, comment, check them out, and have a good day. All right, Mr. Butterhead, what you done tell us today?
Well, today, as we like to throw things into slight oddity, we're going to talk about something that happened in more recent time. In fact, 2001. Scary. On this date, in 2001, the Xbox was actually released. This is their Microsoft's first foray into the gaming console market in North America. Something that was also kind of odd because they actually went to Australia, Europe, and then to Japan, which is kind of surprising because the Japanese do a lot of video gaming, as it is. Interestingly enough, it was also a 6th generation console, competing with Sony's PlayStation 2 and the Nintendo GameCube. And it was also the first major console product produced by an American company since the release of the Atari Jaguar in 1993. So it kind of broke a few trends there. The original unit came out at a healthy price tag of $299. In today's money, that would be almost $500. In England, it went out for $299, equivalent to $517, 46 in 2021, and discontinued worldwide in about 2006. Sold 24 million units as of May the 10th, 2006. The thing that made it kind of ingenious, though, was all the things that it could do. Now, for those of us who are old, you think about Microsoft. What's the first thing you think of? Desktop computers. You know, they were instrumental with Windows 3.1, 95, 98, the Millennium editions. You know, pretty much everybody back then had desktop computers. Yeah, many of us, even today, still will use it for access to the internet and other, functions. Now, when it was released, with the release, it had the ability to play back CD-ROMs and DVDs in addition to playing games. Microsoft actually was concerned that game consoles would threaten the personal computer as the entertainment device for living rooms, whereas most game consoles to that point were built from custom hardware components. The Xbox was built around standard personal computer components using variations of Microsoft Windows and DirectX as the operating system to support games and media playback. It featured a 733 MHz Intel Pentium 3 CPU and a 233 NVIDIA GeForce 3 based NB2A GPU, the latter two making the Xbox technically more powerful compared to its rivals. The Xbox was the first console to feature a built-in hard disk, and the console was also built with direct support for broadband connectivity to the internet via an integrated Ethernet port.
Broadband.
Yes. And with the release of the Xbox Live, a fee-based online gaming service, a year after the console launch, Microsoft gained an early foothold into the online gaming and made Xbox a strong competitor for the sixth-generation consoles. Populator of killer app blockbuster titles such as Bungie's Halo 2 contributed to the popularity of online console gaming, and in particular first-person shooters. Now, the Xbox had a record-breaking launch in North America, selling 1.5 million units before the end of 2001. It was aided by the popularity of one of the system's launch titles, Halo Combat Evolved, which sold 1 million units by April of 2002. The system went on to sell worldwide a total of 24 million units, including 16 million in North America. However, Microsoft was unable to make a steady profit off the console, which had a manufacturing price far more expensive than its retail price, although despite its popularity, losing over $4 billion during its market life. The system outsold the GameCube and the Sega Dreamcast, but was vastly outsold by the PlayStation 2, which had sold over 100 million units by the system's end of production. It also underperformed outside of the Western market, particularly it sold poorly in Japan. This was due to the large console size and an overabundance of games marketed towards American audiences instead of Japanese-developed titles. Production of the system was discontinued starting in 2005, and the Xbox was the first of an ongoing brand of video game consoles designed by Microsoft, with the successor, the Xbox 360, launching in November of 2005. They would also go on to make an Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Series S consoles in 2020. Now, before Xbox got busy, Microsoft had found success in publishing video games for its Windows PCs, popular titles like Flight Simulator and the massively successful Age of Empires after the creation of DirectX, the application programming interface that allowed for direct access to computer hardware and bypassing Windows. However, the company had not entered the home console market of video games, which had been dominated at that time by Sony's PlayStation. Sony was working on its next video game console, the PlayStation 2, announced officially to the public on March 2nd of 1999, and intended for the system to act as a gateway for all types of home entertainment. Sony presented a vision where the console would ultimately replace the desktop computer in the home. Well, Bill Gates saw this upcoming PS2 as a threat to the Microsoft's line of Windows PCs, worrying that an all-encompassing system could eliminate consumer interest in PCs and drive them out of the market. With video games rapidly growing in a massive industry, Gates decided that Microsoft needed to venture into the console gaming market to compete with Sony. Previously, Sega had developed a versions of Windows CE for the Dreamcast console to be used by game developers. Additionally, Gates had directly approached Sony CEO Nayabega ID before the public announcement of the PS2 regarding letting Microsoft develop programming software for the console. However, the offer was declined by ID in the favor of having Sony create proprietary software. Microsoft had also attempted to meet with Hiroshi Yamauchi and Geico Tadea of Nintendo to potentially acquire the company, but Nintendo declined to go further. Now, in 1998, 4 engineers from Microsoft's DirectX team, Kevin Backus, Seamus Blackley, Ted Haas, and Direct Team's leader Otto Burks, began discussing the ideas of a new console that would run off of Microsoft's DirectX technology. Nat Brown, the software architect at Microsoft, would also become a regular contributor to this project after meeting Haas in November of 1998. The project was codenamed Midway in reference to the Battle of Midway during World War II, as a representation of Microsoft's desire to surpass Sony in the console market. The DirectX team held their first development meetings in March 30th, 1999, in which they discussed issues like getting a PC to boot at a quicker pace than usual. The console would run off of a Windows 2000 using DirectX 8.1, which would allow PC developers to easily transition into making games for the console, while also granting it a larger processing power than that of most home consoles. According to Blackley, using PC technology as a foundation for a video game console would eliminate the technological barriers of most home consoles, allowing game creators to expand further on their own creativity without having to worry about hardware limitations. Now, the four DirectX team members encountered disagreements with the Silicon Valley engineering team behind WebTV, which had joined Microsoft after they purchased the rights to the device. Microsoft executive Craig Mundell wanted the project to be led by the WebTV team, who believed that their console should be built from the ground up as an appliance running off of Windows CE. However, the DirectX team were adamant about the idea of repurposing PC hardware components, such as a hard disk drive, arguing that they were cheaply manufactured and could easily be updated every year. How many of us remember the fun of updating your computer by yanking a part out, popping in a new part, and voila, you could go faster? Now, the four developers gained the support of Ed Fries, the head of Microsoft's gaming division, who believed the use of a hard drive in particular would give the console a technical edge among competitors despite its high manufacturing cost. The two opposing teams pitched their arguments to Gates on May 5, 1999 at a meeting attended by over 20 different people. WebTV's team, along with whom were Nick Baker, Dave Riola, Steve Perlman, and Tim Butcher, and their sponsor Craig Mundy, made the case that creating an appliance would be far cheaper, highlighting that most consoles were generally sold around $300. They also wanted to use a custom-made graphics chip which could be shared across several different home devices. Conversely, Fries, vouching for the DirectX teams, argued that using a PC hard drive would set Microsoft's console apart from competitors by allowing for the direct implementation of online access, an argument which Gates sided with. When Gates questioned if the PC games could be effectively ported to the new console, Blackley explained that the machine would utilize the DirectX hardware, meaning that they could be converted easily. Gates heavily favored this proposition over WebTV's, whose concept relied on Windows CE, a heavily stripped-down Windows variant which could not compete with DirectX. As such, Gates sided with the DirectX concept and gave Burke's team permission to create a new video game console. Despite this, WebTV would still play a part in the Xbox original launch. Now, Rich Thompson and Robert J. Bach were responsible for overseeing the Xbox's design. The DirectX team began constructing prototype consoles, purchasing several Dell computers and using their internal parts. Initially, it envisioned that they were designing the console. Microsoft would have worked with a third-party computer manufacturer to mass-produce the units. However, the early work showed that this would need to have something that Microsoft would have to produce themselves, making the prospect a far more costly operation. The name Coffin Box became associated with the project as there were fears the project would end careers at Microsoft.
Coffin Box.
Further, the gaming console could not provide the direct Windows interface to users, while Thompson and Bach had warned Gates and Steve Ballmer about these large-scale changes from the initial proposal. The matter came to a head in February 14th, 2000 meeting, informally referred to as the Valentine's Day Massacre, in which Gates furiously vented about the new cost proposal and massive changes in the console from what had been previously presented, since the Xbox appeared to marginalize Windows. However, being reminded that the project to compete against Sony, Gates and Ballmer gave the project the go-ahead, along with the necessary marketing budget. Another contentious point of design was the addition of Ethernet connectivity rather than simple support for dial-up networking.
Ooh.
How many of us love that noise? Oh, I hated that. At this point, most consumer homes had internet connectivity, but social networks had yet to be established that would later demonstrate the viability of this decision. The Xbox leads argued that the planned Xbox Live functionality, the Ethernet port, would help friends be able to play after they had graduated from schools and colleges and moved across the country. Now, throughout the console's prototyping, Microsoft was working with AMD for the CPU of the system. According to Blackley, just before the system's reveal in 2001 January, Microsoft engineers opted to switch to an Intel CPU, a fact that had not been communicated yet to AMD prior to the reveal. Guys, where's our chip? Chip? What chip? Among the names considered for the new console were a number of acronyms, including Windows Entertainment Project, or WEP, Microsoft Total Gaming, MTG, or Magic the Gathering, Microsoft Internet Network Device, MIND, and Microsoft Internet Center, MIC. Although also among these names considered was Direct Xbox, referring to the system's reliance on DirectX. At one point, Haas jokingly came up with the names Triple Xbox and Direct Triple Xbox as a nod to the system's higher volume of adult content compared to Sony or Nintendo's consoles. Don't think that's going over well.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah. I want a Triple Xbox. Get out of here, kid. Thankfully, Direct Xbox was quickly shortened to Xbox through an email conversation, which was ultimately favored by the development team.
What?
Though a number of spelling variants was still tossed around, such as Xbox, Xbox X, and Xbox, Microsoft's marketing department did not like this name, suggesting 11X or 11X spelled out as alternatives. During focus testing, the company put the name Xbox on their list of possible names simply to prove how unpopular Xbox name would be with consumers. However, Xbox proved to be the most popular name on the list and thus was selected as the official name of the product. Now, when the physical design of the controller began, circuit boards for the controller had already been manufactured. Microsoft had asked Sony's supplier, Mitsumi Electric, for a similar folded and stacked circuit board design used in Sony's DualShock 2 controller, but the company refused to manufacture such a design for Microsoft. This led to the controller being bulky and nearly 3 times the size.
Oops.
The initial controller design was never launched in Japan. The console instead launched with a smaller redesigned version called Controller S that did more compact circuit board design. After the development team began to tighten down to design the Xbox, they got help from Flextronics, not only in reversing the design, but in mass production, creating a factory in Guadalajara, Mexico for this purpose. Early production units had a high failure rate of around 25%, which Flextronics repaired. Later, iterations of the hardware design worked to eliminate these failures. Now, Gates first publicly mentioned the Xbox in an interview in late 1999, stating that he wanted the system to be a platform of choice for the best and most creative game developers in the world. It would later announce that by Gates in a keynote presentation at the Game Developers Conference in March 10 of 2000, showing off an early prototype built to the system and a series of demos showcasing its hardware. The presentation and new system were well received, impressing developers with both the hard drive and the Ethernet port, and appealing to them with the notion of easy-to-use development tools. Microsoft began to look at a series of acquisitions and partnerships to secure content for the console at this time. In early 2000s, Sega's Dreamcast sales were diminishing in part due to the Electronic Arts decision to bypass the console. Sony's PlayStation 2 was just going on sale in Japan, and Gates was in talk with Sega's late chairman, Isao Ohwa, about the possibility of Xbox compatibility with Dreamcast games, but negotiations fell apart over whether Dreamcast's SegaNet online service should be implemented. Microsoft also looked to acquire Electronic Arts, Nintendo, Square Enix, and Midway without success. The company did achieve success in convincing developers at Bethesda Game Studios and Tecmo about the power of the Xbox over the PS2, lining up the Elder Scrolls 3, Morrowind, and Dead or Alive 3 as Xbox console exclusives. Around the same time, Microsoft announced it was rebranding its games group, which had been focused on developing games for Windows, to the Microsoft Games division to make titles for both Windows and the Xbox. Microsoft began acquiring a number of studios to add to the division, notably Bungie in June of 2000, shortly after announcing the announcement of Halo Combat Evolved. With Microsoft's acquisition, Halo switched from being a release for personal computers to being an Xbox exclusive release and a launch time to help drive the sales of the console. Now, the Xbox officially unveiled to the public by Gates and guest professional wrestler Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at the CES 2001 in Las Vegas on January 3rd, 2001. Microsoft announced Xbox release dates and prices at the third quarter 2001 in May. Most Xbox launch dates were unveiled at the E3, most notably Halo and Dead or Alive 3. The unit's release in November 2001 was partially hampered by the effects of the September 11 attacks on travel, and Microsoft could not travel to the Guadalajara facility to help test units. They were able to arrange to ship the units locally instead of testing at Microsoft facilities to have them ready for launch. The system was officially launched at midnight on November 15, 2001, 3 days before the subsequent launch of the Nintendo GameCube. A special event was held the prior night as part of the grand opening of the flagship store, Toys R Us, at Times Square in New York City, in which 1,000 systems were shipped to the store to kick off sales. Bill Gates was president of the event, personally selling his very first Xbox console and greeting people in line and playing games with them as numerous displays units presence. Now that would be kind of fun.
That would be kind of cool.
In 2001, the Independent Television Commission banned a television advertisement of the Xbox in the UK after complaints that it was offensive, shocking, and in bad taste. It depicted a mother giving birth to a baby boy, fired like a projectile through a window, aging rapidly as he flies through the air. The advertisement ends with an old man crashing into his own grave with the slogan, "Life is short, play more."
I mean,
that's kind of crazy. I'm sorry. Now, the Xbox's successor, the Xbox 360, was officially announced on May 12, 2005 on MTV. It was the first next-generation system to be announced, and it was released in North America on November 22, 2005. NVIDIA ceased production of the Xbox's GPU in August of 2005, and the market at the end of the brand new Xbox production. The last game for the Xbox in Japan was King of Fighters Neo Wave, released in March of 2006. The last Xbox game in Europe was the Shaolin Showdown, released in June of 2007. And the last game in North America was Madden NFL 2009, released in August of 2008. Now, support for the out-of-warranty Xbox consoles was discontinued on March 2nd, 2009, and support for Xbox Live on the console ended on April 15th, 2010. Now, the Xbox 360 does support a limited number of the Xbox's game hardware library if the player has an official Xbox 360 hard drive. The Xbox games were added up until 2007. The Xbox game saves cannot be transferred to the Xbox 360, and the ability to play Xbox games through Xbox Live has been discontinued since 2010, April 15th. It's still possible to play Xbox games with the System Link functionality online via both the original console and the Xbox 360 with tunneling software such as Xlink Kai. It was announced at E3 2017 that the Xbox One would be gaining support for a limited number of the Xbox games library. Now, the Xbox was the first game console to feature a built-in hard disk drive, used primarily for storing game saves and current content downloaded from the Xbox Live. This eliminated the need for a separate memory cards, although some older consoles, such as the Amiga CD32, used internal flash memory, and others, such as the TurboGrafx CD, Sega CD, and the Sega Saturn, had featured a built-in battery backup memory prior to 2001. An Xbox user could rip music from a standard audio CDs onto the hard drive, and these songs were used for custom soundtracks in some games. Unlike the PlayStation 2, which could play movie DVDs without the need for a remote control, although an optional remote was available, the Xbox required an internal RF adapter to be plugged into a controller port in order to play movie DVDs. If a DVD playback is attempted without the IR sensor plugged in, An error screen will pop up informing the user for the Xbox DVD playback kit. The said kit included a IR sensor and a remote control. Unlike the PS2, where the Xbox controller could not control DVD playback, said remote was manufactured by Thomson, which also manufactured optical drives for the console, and went on sale in late 2002, which meant a modified version of the remote design used by RCA, GE, and ProScan consumer electronics of the era was used for the Xbox remote. Therefore, users wishing to use a universal remote were instructed to utilize RCA DVD remote codes. The Xbox was the first gaming product to feature Dolby Interactive content encoding technology, which allows real-time Dolby digital encoding in game consoles. Previous game consoles could only use Dolby Digital 5.1 during non-interactive cutscene playback. The Xbox is based on the commodity PC hardware and is much larger and heavier than its contemporaries, largely due to the bulky tray-loading DVD-ROM drive and the standard 3.5-inch hard drive. The Xbox also pioneered safety features such as breakaway cables for controllers to prevent the console from being pulled from the surface on which it rests. Several internal hardware revisions had been made in an ongoing battle to discourage modding, hacking continually updating mod chips' designs in an attempt to defeat them, to cut manufacturing costs and to make the DVD-ROM more reliable. Some of the early drives gave disk reading errors due to the unreliable Thomson drives used. Later generation units that used the Thomson TGM600 DVD-ROM drives and the Philips VAD 6011 DVD-ROM drives were still vulnerable to failure that respectively either rendered the consoles unable to read newer disks or caused them to halt the console with an error code indicating PIO DMA identification failure. These units were not covered under the extended warranty. In 2002, Microsoft and NVIDIA entered arbitration in a dispute that the pricing on NVIDIA's chips for the Xbox. NVIDIA filing with the SEC indicated that Microsoft was seeking $13 million discount on shipments for the fiscal year of 2002. Microsoft alleged violations of the agreement the two companies entered, sought reduced chipset pricing, and sought to ensure that the NVIDIA fulfill Microsoft's chipset orders without limits on quantity. The matter was privately settled in February 6, 2003. Now, the Xbox did include a standard AV cable which provided composite video and mono oral or stereo audio to TVs equipped with RCA inputs. European Xboxes also included a RCA jack to SCART converter block in the standard AV cable. An 8 megabyte removable solid-state memory card can be plugged into the controllers, in which game saves can either be copied from the hard drive when in the Xbox dashboard memory manager, or saved during a game. Most Xbox game saves can be copied into the memory unit and moved from another console, but some Xbox saves are digitally signed. It's also possible to save an Xbox Live account on a memory unit to simplify its use on more than one Xbox. The ports on the top of the controllers could also be used for other accessories, primarily headsets or voice chat via Xbox Live. But as it was, once the Xbox ran out of its life expectancy, as they had mentioned, the people at Microsoft did come up with a couple other solutions. First of all, they came out with the next configuration, which was the Xbox 360, and then they moved on down the road with the last two ones that came out in 2020. Now, the thing that I do find funny is that while all this was happening in 2001, and I don't know if they intentionally did this for the humor of it, in 2013, Sony stepped back into the game and released their PlayStation 4 on this date.
Of course they did.
2014. But anyway, little computer fun for you folks out there. I know there's a couple Advent gamers that we have in the group, but do want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. It's been the Bearded One for the Butt Files. Have a good night.
Nice.